Kids are dumb. We think we know what we're talking about when we're 16, 17. Oh, you're too strict. Oh, it's boring. Oh, I can't do this.
None of us become who we're meant to be alone. Every story has people who helped write it. So let's talk about them. Welcome to the Mentor Sessions.
Teri Rogers. Teri, it's so awesome to get to talk to you and to hear your story. You have a very impactful and powerful story, and I just want to let you take it over and tell me about yourself and your life and your journey.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. My story is pretty triumphant. You know, I'm a Skid Row survivor. I came from a pretty decent back home, but a lot of the life choices that I made or some circumstances pushed me into direction where, you know, these choices had to be made. It's a part of growth. When you think you're young and know what you're talking about when we're 16, 17, 18, into our 20s, we think we have all the answers. So it was a very fun time in my life, and I just didn't pay attention or value time. I didn't understand time was ticking. Although my father at times would tell me, hey, you know, time's ticking. Like, what are you going to do? So just being unproductive and hanging around the wrong crowds and everything at times, you know, partying, you look up 10, 20 years pass by and, you know, what have you done? You know, so throughout my journey, I ended up in Skid Row neighborhood. And that was because I was looking for housing. I was at the time homeless. So I was able to obtain housing at the St. George Hotel, which is one of the historical hotels down there that they have renovated and turned into rooms for individuals. SRO, single room occupancy to because there were a lot of programs that were helping families and women with children, but then we noticed there weren't any programs for single people to be able to get the assistance. So in this case, with this pilot program, I was able to qualify and I was able to get housing. And even though it was in a Skid Row area, I was appreciative to have housing, but I didn't feel that was the end all to be all. I felt like, okay, now I can start my journey and because I'm stabilized. Now I can start making doctor's appointments and now I can, you know, just try to get my life together and on track. So I enrolled in Santa Monica College. I was taking a broadcasting class. And on the way home, I saw a flyer for a workshop. And so it caught my eye because they said if you're interested in filmmaking and this and that or whatever. So I attended the workshop. And when I got there, it was a pretty cool experience because there were other women there. And that's where we started the drama therapy. And it was facilitated by Mimi Savage, and she's a professor at UCLA. So she introduced us to drama therapy, and it was my first time actually ever hearing about it or participating. So it was a very cool experience, and that's pretty much the circle that you see in Game Girls. And so the producers, they were there to film, and so we never thought that the film would go this far or it was originally supposed to be about the other women as well in the workshop, but the final cut, the story advisor, William Shepard, he said, hey, you know, let's focus on Teri and Tiana. I had been attending the workshops a year before I met Tiana. So when we got into the relationship, I was bringing her with me. She liked the safety of the room, a safe space, and it was something different, you know, and I'm appreciative that she was open to that, you know. And so from there, once they did the final cut, I saw that I was the main protagonist and she was the antagonist. And it was like, wow, like this was pretty cool. So I was able to see myself the way others were telling me that they were seeing me because I didn't see myself like that. I didn't, you know, I was under the influence and I just was very unstable. So I just thought like I wasn't reasoning. I wasn't thinking it with a rational mind. I wasn't using my wise mind. I wasn't my conduct, my behavior, you know, none of that came to thought. So,
What did you learn from yourself, watching yourself from the outside, from a third party view?
wow. Okay. So the first time that we viewed it before it was released, I was totally embarrassed because the way that they opened the film. And I was just like, wow, you know, I mean, it was a bit intense and it's pretty cool now looking back because it grabs the audience. You know what I mean? So It was pretty cool, but I just was like, "Wow, look at me, like, what in the world is going," like, "Oh, no." Like, oh my
Did you have a
gosh.
hard time, like, believing that was you up there?
I think I was just more numb. I think I was more numb to the fact I didn't know how to receive it because of the condition I was in, mentally and just how you see me on the film. It was a bit unsettling. So when I did get the opportunity to go to rehab, I took full advantage because I saw myself and I said, "Oh no, I need to make some changes." And I was just like, "Oh no." And I fell in love with rehab. Fell in love with the things I was learning, not only about my sickness, illness, and disease regarding, the alcohol and drugs, but I was from Game Girls. I remember the drama therapy. So in rehab, we had classes that were helping us to heal from our childhood trauma and heal just and learn. And I learned so much. I fell in love, and I just was like, well, this is what I want to do, and it took a few tries before I really was able to. Alcohol was my drug of choice, and it was very hard for me to stop.
How long have you been sober now?
September 5th will be 4 years.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank.
I'm retired law enforcement, was seeing how hard sobriety is, how much you have to work for sobriety. It's like any other, in my mind, any other type of trauma where every day you have to get up and realize this doesn't define who I am. This isn't what I'm going to be. And in the movie Game Girls, I saw that in you a lot, where you were trapped in the addictions, but at the same time, you so wanted to get out of that. You wanted to get away from that. You said you had a different lifestyle and a pretty good lifestyle before you got into fell down the path of your addictions and ended up on Skid Row. Do you mind sharing like where you grew up and what that was like before that's where you ended up?
Yeah, so okay, I was born in 1980, November 13th, 1980. I was born in Centinela Hospital in Inglewood, California. Born and raised in all of Los Angeles, South Central, Southern California. Towards in '94, the Northridge earthquake kind of shook up the city and everything, and our house was affected. So we moved to San Pedro, and it was a bit of a culture shock coming from Culver City, West LA district. So it was a bit of a culture shock, but I'm very glad that my parents made that change for us. And they have always had us in good schools. The magnet programs were out during that time. So we went to some pretty good schools. And growing up, we were a bit unstable because of it was a trying time for a few years, just growing up in my childhood. But when my stepfather came along, it was like he was a great man. He just passed about 4 or 5 years ago, but he's
I'm
been
sorry
there.
for his passing.
Thank you, thank you. He was an Air Force veteran, and he worked for LAUSD for 30 years, and I saw this man get up and go to work, and he was a retired peace officer. So I saw this man get up and go to work every day, and he passed before he can even enjoy his retirement. He retired, but he wasn't able to enjoy it. So that was pretty devastated, and he enforced education. He spent time with us. He took us to the park all the time. He had time for family. He was a family man. And he just wanted the best for all of us.
So while he wasn't your biological father, he took you in like a biological father, like
Exactly. Yeah, you
what
can't
you'd
pay me to
want.
say that wasn't my dad, my biological dad. I call him my dad. That's my dad. But then my stepfather, that's my father. And I don't mean any disrespect or to, minimize my dad's role in my life because he brought me here. But it's a difference between being a dad and being a father. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Big Quentin was really a father to me. As a matter of fact, when he passed, I went and got a dog tag with his picture in it, gold chain with a gold dog tag with his picture in it. And so he was an Air Force, so I got a dog tag. That was
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
thank you. Yeah.
Did he get to see you on the path of recovery, and did you get to
N-
show him?
No, that is one person that I wish was still here to see that I have become an award-winning author and that I self-published my books. I've stopped alcohol. That was actually one of his requests before he passed. And I didn't know because during that time I was in my addiction. I didn't when I look back now and I go back and look at the pictures, I'm like, "Wow, my father is dying in my face," and I had no idea because I just had no idea it was all messed up, so that grief process was a hard pill to swallow, so I do remember that, he called me often before he passed, and I went out my parents moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, so I went out there to see him at the VA hospital, and, when I got back home, I wanted to send him some roses, but they said he went home. So I was like, okay, well, he's doing better. But then next thing you know, he went back to the hospital and he passed away. So I didn't know it was 4 months from when I went to go see him. But he would call me frequently. So and we would talk and I just didn't know that he was dying, you know? And so we actually buried him on which would have been my mother and his 34th year anniversary.
Man, that's hard. We lost my mom a couple years ago,
Okay, mom, I sent my
and
condolences.
and she was in hospice care, and I remember celebrating my parents' 55th anniversary, and she passed shortly thereafter. And
Heartbreak.
there's a part of me that I feel like she wanted to make sure she hit that milestone for dad.
Yes,
My mom grew up in a very abusive home, in and out of foster care, and her parents or everyone in their community, when they got married at young 18-year-old kids, nobody believed that they were going to amount to anything, they were going to achieve. So to last 55 years together, to spend all their time together, that that's a
that's
hell of a
beautiful.
milestone, especially as and seeing it where you came from, a broken home situation. And one thing that was killing me when I was watching the movie yesterday, which I'm going to tell everybody again, I'm going to put links to it, but the movie Game Girls, man, it will get you, especially people like us, people like myself that come from a really blessed and privileged life. My parents were together my whole life. I had traumas, I had situations like everybody else does, but at the end of the day, I had safety, I had a home. And so watching the people on Skid Row with you, seeing these women and their children and their young children out there homeless at night, not knowing if they were going to eat. And one thing I've kind of known through research and but also watching the movie, Skid Row has a community. There's a community out
Absolutely,
there. Tell
absolutely.
me tell me what that community's like. You mentioned the mayor of Skid Row, that unofficial title he has. Tell me what that's like out there for people that are suffering like that.
Okay, so things have changed a lot. I just know that, back before I was down a few years back, it was a community, but it was individual communities, and in that underground world, it was like a respect thing too amongst certain people. So it would be the Cubans would be have their section, a certain different people would have their section, and everybody kind of didn't step on anybody's toes. Everybody kind of respected everybody, even because yeah, it was wild down there. But there are a few resources like the Downtown Women's Center. I volunteered at I think that's Volunteers in America by the mission. I volunteered at the mission where I would go in the morning, prepare the food so that we could cook breakfast and serve breakfast to the individuals, and then they'll stand in line, they'll get their breakfast, eat, we'll close, we'll prepare for lunch, and then same thing, and then we'll prepare for dinner. And if you're not in that line by a certain time, you possibly won't be able to get a bed or be able to get entry into one of the missions or oh, it's the Union Rescue Mission. That's where I would always volunteer. So, like, there's different the community is really within the people. We kinda, like, take care of each other because General Jeff Page, Jeffrey Page, we called him, General Jeff. He was, we dubbed him the mayor of Skid Row because he really cared about the community and did a lot. He stood up for a lot of people and he really advocated for the community so that we can have access to certain resources and so that people down there could get treated with dignity and respect. So I kind of wanted to follow follow his blueprint, or his footsteps because he was very positive and he loved everybody. It wasn't a discrimination. It wasn't if he could be there to help, he'll help. But and he was straight honest with everybody too. He was a man. He stepped up and stood up for us. So that was
So
great.
you mentioned you went there, you ended up there. Not that you
Mhm.
like, hey, let's go there, but that's where you ended up in your 20s, late teens, early 20s. What
Correct.
was your mindset like when you first got there?
I got there actually like in my late 20, maybe early 30s or
Okay.
yeah, something around there. Yeah, 2012, my 30s. The thing about that is I was still going back to my cousin's house. And she was like, yo, after 30 days, she was like, you just signed your lease. You have your own place. But it was so unfamiliar to me and it was uncomfortable to stay there. Number one, I'm scared of heights. I was on the sixth floor. And number two, I hadn't lived alone ever. I've always lived with other people, friends, family, or whatever. And so I had to adjust. It was a strange adjustment. So I just went ahead and went home, and I was like, "You're right." And I went home and started getting adjusted to this is my place. What am I going to do with my life? So I enrolled at Santa Monica College. And then also to know that I needed money. So I didn't want to sell drugs. I believe that selling drugs and doing drugs both destroys families. So I incorporated the same measurements of food and everything and started selling food. And so, and then people that didn't have money to buy the food, I would give it away. So that was just my way of like being part of the community or having something to do and learning the community. So, yeah, that was pretty cool experience for me. But it was also a rough patch in my life because I was still in my addiction as well. So,
Yeah, you mentioned something when we first started, and the way you worded it, man, it really hit me because you called yourself a Skid Row survivor.
yes,
You survived Skid Row, and
yes.
I feel like that's a way of like accepting that that was a very traumatic part of your life, but you got out of there. You fought, and that's one of the things. And we've talked about this a couple times. And I wanted you to explain to the audience who hasn't seen the movie yet, and we don't want to give too much away. But you were talking to your girlfriend in the movie. Is it Taniqua?
Tip,
Tiana, sorry.
about
You were talking to Tiana, and you said, "I don't like this. I don't like getting high. I don't like smoking cigarettes. I don't like being on Skid Row." And there seemed to be some sort of conflict between the two of you. Tell me what it was, what shifted your mindset that like where you realized you had to change to break those chains, if you will.
okay, so after viewing the film, it came to my realization that part of me wanting different and wanting change is because the way my upbringing. And Tiana didn't have that type of upbringing. So she didn't have anything to go back to. She didn't have anything to compare. That's been her life. So she didn't know that was all normal. And for me, I'm like, this isn't normal. I had a structured household. My father went to work, the kids went to school, I was raised in two-parent household. So, it was a bit different. You know, um, I had something to go back to, like, nice living. I grew up in San Pedro, California. We moved to San Pedro in '94. So that's where I grew up or whatever. We didn't have drugs and alcohol in my household. Like I said, my father was a retired peace officer, Air Force veteran. So yeah, he didn't play that stuff. It was a pretty decent foundation. My only traumas that I really had was the fact that a lot of responsibilities were placed on me growing up as far as babysitting, cooking, cleaning, doing everything that my mother was supposed to be doing. Once I went to go live with my biological father, she felt that I don't know, it was just tension there or whatever. And so, but I'm like, that's my biological father. But now growing up, I understand. I see why she didn't want me to go stay with him. But it was a lot of freedom. I had fun. My dad bought me a brand new car. It was a lot of fun. And then I didn't have to babysit. I felt I was free of responsibilities. So life became a party and it just got unmanageable. It ended up getting unmanageable. So, like, I really I really feel like without if I didn't have that prior experience of what family life was or what a decent household is, I I don't know if I would've wanted to make those type of changes.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because in one way, it sounded like early on you were trying to escape that lifestyle, you know, and then you realize, wait, that's the lifestyle that you craved,
Well, yeah, like
that
kids
stability.
yeah, kids are dumb. We think we know what we're talking about when we're 16, 17. "Oh, you're too strict. Oh, it's boring. Oh, I can't do this." And my father, by him being in law enforcement as well, and working at the Central Juvenile, these are children, he's protecting his children and he's seeing this. So he would tell us that we couldn't have friends over at the house. And at the time we were like, why we can't have friends? And it's like, now that I'm older, I see he would tell us like, because you some of your friends are not raised like you guys, so when they're at the house, they're looking around like, "What can we come back and get?" You guys are so friendly and just having people at the house, you guys are thinking it's just having friends at the house, but these kids don't have what you guys have. So, you guys are putting us in a situation, if they wanna come back, rob, steal, whatever, or so he just did his best to protect us. You guys are mean, I want to be on the street. I want to do what I want to do. I have a car. It's fun. It's the 90s, Tupac, Biggie, Los Angeles. Like, it was fun. The 90s was fun. So, and then when I got older, because I was raised sheltered, a bit sheltered. So when I got older, I was like, oh no, this isn't it. My life started going so far down the drain that the partying wasn't fun anymore. The drinking wasn't fun anymore. The it just wasn't fun anymore, and it got out of hand, and it was more of me escaping my reality instead of facing my reality. So that's why I was thankful to go to rehab because I was able to see and learn what I was doing to myself, and a lot of people have died in their addiction, so I didn't want that to be my story. So I had to do everything in my power to make it to almost 4 years in September, which is it's a day by day thing, so
It's day by day. Sometimes it's 30 seconds at a time, right?
exactly.
You know, that's that's the thing about addiction is you can't take it like if you look too far ahead, it's going to look unaccomplishable. And again, I can't say I'm not an addict because we all have our things we're addicted to it, be, food, sugar,
Coffee
and
coffee,
coffee.
because in rehab, that's all we had at the AA
Oh yeah.
meeting.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
we had the
coffee.
coffee pot.
If you can't tell, I'm a bigger guy, and when I was in law enforcement, that's one of the things the inmates and stuff like that would try to jab at me, like, "Oh, you big
Oh,
fat piece
okay.
of shit," and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh, cool.
I finally came to the realization. I was like, "Hey guys, we all have issues. Like, you guys are in here because of the issues that you have,
Yeah.
and oddly, myself, my issues aren't against the law, but your
Right,
issues and your addictions had brought you here.
right.
So I can be an asshole and poke at you for what you're doing and what got you here.
Right, right.
Or we could just realize that, like, hey, we're all human dealing with something and trying to
Exactly,
figure out this human experience.
exactly.
And so I wanted to ask, like, as you started working on yourself and working in recovery, who were those people that, like, kind of kept that drive alive? Because sometimes it's hard to do that, and we need to rely on community. We need to rely on our sponsors or, to be there and say, "Hey, dude, you got it. One more day."
My higher power and my will to succeed with this, because if somebody told me 4 year, go do 4 years in prison, I'm like, absolutely not. So it seems like a long time, right? So I don't
Right.
want to push my reset button if I made it this far. I don't want to. So just really through prayer and finding a healthy outlet. That's why I began writing books and being of service and leading by example. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to say I don't do this and then I'm going every weekend making excuses. Well, I just have a shot here and there. That's not making it 4 years because that's not that's so It's been my higher power. I have to lean on my higher power, power greater than myself. And I know, and then staying out of the way. And I'm gonna tell you one other thing. I was medicine assisted. I took some medication called naltrexone, and it really worked because even though I wanted to stop, it seemed like it was hard and I would make excuses even after rehab. Like I said, I've been out of rehab like 5 years, but I'm only 3 and some months free of alcohol because I thought that, okay, I'm not gonna drink the hard liquor. I'm just gonna drink the Mike's Hard Lemonade. And then after so much of that, it ended up leading back to the hard liquor. So I just was like, no, you know what? If I really want to give myself a shot, I'm gonna have to stick to it. And it was pretty hard, but the it gets easier. It's easier, and I don't want to push my reset button, and I've changed people that I hang around, places I go, and the things that I do.
And that's such an important part. And whenever I'd see people come back in, I'm like, well, what's going on? And they'd be like cussing out their PO because they busted them for drinking or smoking a blunt or something. And
Yeah.
I would say, like, you guys don't understand, when we say that's a gateway drug, it dulls your senses enough that it allows you to be okay with a little more, a little more. And those that I saw finally get it, and again, I'm a tool, right? I'm just a tool
Right.
in the universe, in the hands of the higher power, whomever, to just be there and show people different examples of what they've got and what they can do.
Yes.
Uh, you can see people catching that and understanding, like, and that's, I think, one of the key grips that helps people finally get into recovery and start the path of recovery is they're like, oh, wait, I can't even get close to that line anymore. You mentioned you had to change the places you hang out at, and the people you hang out with, because they weren't going to help you achieve who you wanted to be.
Right. So when I moved away from Skid Row and moved to a house, a better area, I told my friends, okay, look, I moved out the area and I'm serious about change. So if you come over my house, there's no getting high in my bathroom. You can't get high in my bathroom. So guess what? People stop coming over.
Yeah. And that's when you see who your real friends are.
Exactly.
Is that the house that you and Tanisha moved into there towards the end?
Yes, yes. It was
You guys were like getting it ready to paint and stuff like that. I saw the pride you guys had on your faces, the excitement and the pride that, like, we did this, like,
yes,
we got here.
yes.
And those are the moments that, like, grab me, like, oh, she gets it. She, and, but one thing I did notice in the movie, what it took to get to that place and going through the bureaucracy, and how that fight, how'd that fight made you feel?
Never give up. I mean, I already know, you get 100 no's, it's gonna be one yes. So you gotta keep trying. You can't just stop because one person say no or this person doesn't get it, or you gotta keep going. You gotta keep trying. Like that's life. That's the test behind it. Because like I tell everybody that I also help as well, that when they come to me for help and they don't understand, everybody wants instant gratification, or they think it's gonna just happen that fast. When no, it's a lengthy process. It's very discouraging. You just have to want it enough to trust the process and stick with the plan. Don't deviate from the plan because you're throwing the time away that you're waiting. So why would you deviate from the plan when you're already why would you it's frustrating, it's discouraging, but stick with it because if you stick with it, you get an outcome, and you don't want to be in your own way because you're impatient, whatever you were trying to get, you got. No, the reward is like, I didn't quit. I didn't quit. I kept. You can apply that to other areas in your life. You know what I mean? And since I applied that to other areas in my life, things are working out. So it's like, why not give it a shot? Why not give myself a shot? Why get in my own way? Because of growing pains. It's always hard to do something different or do something new. It's easy to stay comfortable or stuck in your same situation. Well, if this didn't work, I'm just gonna go back to it. No, it doesn't work like that because then you're keeping yourself stuck. You have to go through anything. when you check in this fall semester that's coming up for school and everything, you don't go to class, sit in class one day and get your certificate, degree, or whatever. No, you have to go for the 3 months, lengthy process. Sometimes it could be discouraging because a family member it might pass or personal situations, housing, anything can happen, you know? So it's like it could feel heavy at the time, but if you stick with it, it's such a great relief once you get to that finish line. And it's like, okay, I did it. And that's what builds muscle. That's what builds character. That's what builds like, okay, well, what's next? I'm ready for what's next, you know? So, or it's like, I can finally take a break, you know? So it's like, you just gotta, what works for you. And it's like, I just feel like that's what's been working for me, you know?
You see that a lot in the same processes, feeling like that there's no hope, when you get 100 no's or when you do relapse. And a lot of people just kind of like, well, that's just me. And in my career, a lot of the kids that I saw get that way, they get to a point where those are the ones that end up ODing because they don't have the that relapse. They just feel like there's nothing worth it, or they end up taking their own life and stuff like that. Going through those processes.
There's not enough support. So people get discouraged. So this is the thing. What I've noticed in rehab is that a lot of the clinicians don't have the lived experience. So it's hard to connect with clients. Me, it's like I want to see things through. So when we were in group, if the facilitator asks a question, I'm not about to sit here with y'all for 45 minutes staring at a clock, looking at my watch, playing on my phone. No, because you got to remember, in some of these instances, you're in a diversion program for court. So they have to write you a court progress report letter. And if your court progress report letter is not saying that you're participating actively, you're not doing this, you're not engaging, where you think you're going to end up? What's the purpose of you doing this then if you just want to go to jail or you don't care? So the thing of it is like, once I started actively participating and raising my hand, like I said, the other people were like, hey, yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me. So now I'm getting the groups engaged and because they felt I understood them. So the other facilitators, they're like, you make a good facilitator. You come in a group because you get the group going, and it's like they don't have that connection with the clinicians. They feel judged. They feel like, oh, this person doesn't know what I've been through. They don't know house. A lot of people get the jitters. They can't sit down. They can't sit in the house. So then that's why they end up going back to their familiarity. They're familiar with what they're familiar with, whether it's friends, situations, or a substance. That's what kept them going all this time, so they end up giving up on themselves. I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think if you take someone like me and put me into one of those facilitator meetings, I think those in those meetings would have a hard time trying to relate their lived experiences with me, and because I haven't lived that. I don't know that. But when you have people in there that have been through the situation, once we started talking about this through emails and stuff and connecting, I was like, this is a mentorship story because it's taking people who have gone through these experiences and saying, hey, guess what? Yeah, I know what you're going through. Yeah, you're going to have to learn how to
Yes.
sit in that house by yourself. And
Yes.
and you're going to have to learn how to, take care of yourself. Basic skills that a lot of people are never really taught that experience those kind of traumas and stuff like that. Your hygiene, going to
It's not
doctor's
even that.
appointments, going
It's a
to
lot of
what's that?
exactly that part right there. Yeah. No, yeah, that right there, making the doctor's appointments and knowing who your primary care physician is, it's so serious to me. And to me, like, I just know that there's so many people my age that don't know how to fill out a bank deposit slip. And that's pretty sad because everybody wants money, 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 but there's no financial literacy. Like, what are you going to do with the money? Like, what do you want? What do you want the money so bad for? So you could floss on other poor people? So you could go buy you a chain? So you could go buy you some? Like, what do you want with the money for? To get loaded? Like, what do you need to do? What's the plan? Do you have a plan? Because if you don't If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So what do you want the money for? What is the money thing? Why is everybody chasing money and don't have a plan and don't even have any financial literacy? And then you want money, but are you at least going to pay $45 a month to make sure that if anything, God forbid, happens to you, we could properly bury you instead of running to GoFundMe to go get people work hard for their money. And nobody wants to give their money to somebody who's negligent with them. Why should I care about you more than you care about you? You was just now showing money, flashing money, showing money. I got all this money, but you never took the time to pay for a proper burial. So just in case somebody want to rob you for that money, the stress won't be on the family, and we don't have to embarrass ourselves by begging people on GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy. Okay, it's not a burial policy. It's none of that. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it's not enough accountability. People holding themselves accountable. I don't feel like it's enough. It doesn't make sense. So I want to provide these tools so that people could do like Michael Jackson said and look at themselves in the mirror, because that's where the change starts.
Yeah, well, and thankfully you got your mirror on a and I'm saying this facetiously, on a giant movie screen, right? You mentioned like putting $45 away, to pay for a funeral or something like that, but even just having a savings account in case something happens, your car breaks down, you lose your job, you have a unknown medical bill. We joke about it now of like I was saving something and my wife was like, "Why are you saving that?" And I'm like, "Well, just in case I need it again." And she goes, "Well, just buy a new one, dude." And to be in that mindset where like, "Oh, I have those abilities, I have those resources available." And um but financial literacy is something that it's very important, especially when you're not taught those life skills. Our kids sometimes are still calling my wife how to do their tax forms, and she's an accountant, so she can help with that stuff. But hey, I need to find a doctor. Okay, how do I find a doctor? You go through the provider book and find one that's close, and then, well, I don't like that doctor. Okay, find another one. Find one that you feel like you can connect with, and you're getting the answers to your questions. But it's knowing that you have those abilities and those resources available to you that I think are just as valid as important.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's what I noticed when I went to the rehab. I noticed that those with Medi-Cal get treated completely different than patches of that Malibu where we get to swim, or Desert Oasis. And, actually but I used to play football for a women's professional league. So I'm a NFL alumni. And so I'm able to access benefits if I wanted to go to a treatment center, which I'm going to write to them to see if I could come speak there. If I was to go back into a 30, 60, 90-day inpatient program, I will just go to that one just to see and get my taste of what that recovery place is like, because it's for all NFL players and ex-players. And so we have a treatment center that I can utilize my member benefits to access treatment. And I want to just go so that I can see the difference between Medi-Cal treatment at a treatment facility and this facility. It really bothered me at times, even when I would be on a 72-hour hold in different psych wards and stuff. I would find myself working inside of there, advocating for the people in there, because I'm like, you're not going to talk to her like that. Just because like I was standing up for people, and they're like, we're going to discharge you. We got to get rid of her. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, but I didn't go there for that. I was really sick when I was there, but I was really sick. I got the shot in the butt and everything. They had to put me down, count to 10. You at 8, you already knocked out. I've experienced that, but then it's like I needed to be there because I was sick, but I noticed the injustice. I noticed I didn't like how they weren't standing up for themselves. And I know that some people are too afraid to speak up for themselves or don't know how to speak up for themselves. And if I see something that's not right, I'm going to say something. or if I see you about to get hit by a car, I'm gonna say, "Hey, watch out." It just comes secondhand nature. I wasn't there to work. I'm advocating for these people, and it just different things come back to mind, and I'm like, wow, yeah, it's not about me. It's way bigger than me, and I'm happy to be the vessel to carry the message out and be the living walking testimony to show people that we do recover and that it is possible. And people that saw me, on Skid Row or whatever, it's like, wow, well, this is what she's doing today. And, it's like it gives other people motivation, inspiration, or people on the brink of breaking, give people strength from that. My story, if they're on the brink, so it's all about prevention, it's all about risk management, it's all about public safety, and it's all about empathy and caring about each individual, and just there's no one pill fix all. Everybody, well, not judging, no judging, no judgment.
We're not a solitary. We need that community. We need people to be there. We need people that like you were there in Skid Row, and now you're coming back to it to like help people and to show them, hey, if I can do it, you can too. And here are the steps. And you walk with people on those journeys, and you help people on those journeys, and you advocate for 'em. You talk about the stuff you do with domestic violence and advocating for people, because sometimes people, because of their life situations, especially victims of violence, they don't know how to advocate for themselves, because they're going to get, their mindset
If
is,
they
if I
speak up,
say
something might
anything,
happen.
yeah, there's going to be a consequence to this. Instead of speaking up and like, yeah, I got you, dude. How important it is that we teach people to advocate for themselves. As simple as like going to the bank, writing a check, writing a deposit slip. Okay, what are you doing with this money? Why do you need this money right now? So you work now as an advocate for so many programs. I'd like to hear more about that and what you've learned now as an advocate for these programs.
Even though I don't own a home, I'm gonna learn with you guys. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna wait till I get to a point and then start the work. I'm like, come on, guys, we're gonna learn together. I'm gonna put the workshop together, and then we can learn together and hopefully become first time homeowners. So that's the end goal. So like I just provide different groups and classes for domestic violence. I'm only certified. I'm not licensed, but I'm certified to help support with the survivors of domestic violence, and also just different workshops like the financial literacy. That workshop will be coming up this July for Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, because I think that people have bad spending habits, and people don't know how to properly manage funds. They don't know about credit. They don't know about interest, compound interest. They don't understand debt to ratio. They don't understand why credit is important. They don't understand. So I want to just be able to, provide those services to people so that they could possibly start making better decisions with their money and stop being careless with funds.
What are some of the results you've seen through your advocacy work?
I believe it's called Time All of Us or None. And so we went to the Capitol and to talk to the different Congress. And I was assigned my topic was to talk about why they need to increase gate money from $200 to 3,000, because when people get out of prison, a lot of people may have family or may not have family. And if you go to your family's house, you don't want to just be a freeloader out of jail and just, you want to be able to say, hey, if I come to stay with you, here go about $500 or whatever, or 200. Let me stay until I get on my feet or get into a program or whatever, or so that I can get to my parole agent tomorrow and do what's required upon my release so that I don't violate. It's enough money for them to go get a room or hygienes or whatever, because $200 gate money, especially today, is nothing, especially if they're coming that far. I have to buy a ticket to get home. That's already dipping into that. So then what if you need, you know, hygiene, clothes, whatever? I just feel like $200 is not enough. So I spoke to the congressman about why it was important to, increase the gate money.
This was a long time day.
Yeah.
And you just taught me something I didn't know about gate money. having resources available and sharing those resources to people who do not know what they are and stuff like that are very important. So you have an organization now called Breaking Chains. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Breaking Chains?
Breaking stigmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I do is I address a lot of the social economic issues that have plagued our communities and provide solutions and resources to those in need. Whether it's assistance with getting housing, assistance with community service, with the courts, reentry, getting into treatment facilities, help with light bills and utilities, everything. Resources to the nearest mental health facility, Department of Mental Health in their specific area, just whatever. I'm a one-stop shop. You know, I have a lot of experience in many things just navigating life and trying to get through. So, you know, even if I had to help some younger kids that wanted to go to a junior college, I would help them if they needed help with their FAFSA or if they needed help with enrollment. So yeah, I just do whatever anybody needs help with. I'm always available because I'm very resourceful and I know exactly where to go.
What have you learned most about the breaking the stigmas being in that role? What's been your biggest takeaway as you have transitioned from you were at rock bottom, you still go back into the community and work within the community. What
Yes.
what's it look like and what's it feel like now to you to be in that position? Going from you were inside, now you're outside looking in.
I feel strong. I feel strong and I feel capable. I understand the people. You know, I feel confident. I feel growth. I feel maturity. I feel leadership and I embrace it all, you know, because I have a lot of family and friends that have died in their addiction. So I feel, you know, I feel alive. I feel like this is my duty.
Yeah. Well, I like how you put that. That's your duty, because that's the thing that one of the messages we like to share here at the mentor sessions is that when we get to that point where we transition in our roles, it's our duty to pass those life lessons on to the next generation to help them. Congratulations on your sobriety.
Oh,
Congratulations on your sobriety and everything that you've accomplished. And I'm excited to follow you and see what you're continuing to accomplish. Where can people find you? Where can people find your
thank you.
message?
As a matter of fact, you can find my message at Barnes& and Noble. Here's my award-winning book, America's Game Girl. This is actually loosely based on the film, Bridging the Gaps: A Journey of Love, Mental Health, and Overcoming Stigma. And this is my new book about my diagnosis, which is PMDD, which is a woman's health, mental health diagnosis. And so that's where a lot of my life changed as well. Once I was properly diagnosed, I was able to start working. I was able to, you know, work on myself a lot better. So, living through the cycle, my pain is real. That's also available at Barnes& and Noble. I thank you all that is viewing this and watching this. My name is Teri Rashawn Rogers. I really hope you enjoyed this content, and I really appreciate you, Mike, for inviting me. You guys can find me at beyond stigmas.
Those for you. So
Okay.
thank you, Teri. Appreciate you sharing
Oh,
your
and
message.
the website is breakingstigmas.org for anybody that needs any assistance that would like to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Teri Rogers at breakingstigmas.org.
Great. Appreciate it, Teri. Really appreciate you being with us today. It's an important message from those that live outside that world and to see the lives that are really being impacted. Thank you. And I'd just like to ask my subscribers to please share this message so other people can find it and find Teri and the work that she's doing. Like this message, send it to those that you know that could use some help, especially those that are stuck in their addictions, and they can see how Teri herself got through her addictions and her struggles. So, Teri, I appreciate you, and thank you everybody for watching.